Hello and welcome to our webinar on how to identify, prevent, and manage employee fraud. This is a guide for HR managers. My name is Russ Warner. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Converus. I'm delighted to spend a few minutes with you discussing this topic, which is critical for every organization's health and sustainability. In this discussion, we'll explore how HR leaders like yourselves can play a pivotal role in safeguarding your organization's integrity against the serious threat of employee fraud. Our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and strategies to address this challenge proactively. Employee fraud isn't just a finance issue, it's a pervasive threat that can undermine the foundation of an organization. It can impact financial stability, trust, employee morale, and even public reputation. As HR leaders, you are uniquely positioned at the intersection of people, culture, and policy. You can shape the ethical climate to be the first line of defense in detecting early warning signs, and to support systems that prevent and respond to dishonest behavior. This webinar will provide you with a comprehensive guide covering the why behind the fraud, what to look for, and actionable steps to build a proactive fraud management strategy. While the financial impact of fraud is often highlighted, its consequences affect human resources. Fraud can erode employee morale, fostering an environment of suspicion and distrust. It directly damages the workplace culture that HR works so hard to build and can make it more difficult to attract and retain ethical talent. Furthermore, when fraud occurs, HR is often at the forefront of the investigation or the disciplinary action and manages the fallout, which adds a burden and complexity to your role. Understanding these broader impacts underscores why fraud prevention and management are core HR competencies. Let's start by understanding the why behind employee fraud. It's a common misconception that fraud is always a random act of malice. In reality, most employees do not commit fraud randomly. Their decisions are typically influenced by a combination of factors, which we'll call the fraud triangle. It consists of pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Understanding these underlying motivations is key to developing effective prevention strategies. Digging deeper into the motivations, we often see a blend of personal pressures and character traits. Financial hardship, whether real or perceived, is a significant driver. This could be overwhelming debt, the desire to maintain a certain lifestyle, or family pressures. Beyond hardship, pure greed and the pursuit of personal enrichment also play a role. Some people may harbor a sense of superiority or entitlement, believing they are above the rules or they deserve what they take. Finally, the opportunistic mindset is crucial. The idea that because I can, they will. It's important to note that emotions like fear or anger rarely drive fraud. Instead, it's the internal belief that they deserve the reward or they won't get caught. That matters most. This ties into the rationalization component of the fraud triangle. Rationalization is a critical psychological component here. Acts of fraud are rarely impulsive emotional outbursts. Instead, they're often preceded by a period of internal justification. The individual convinces themselves that what they're doing is okay. Perhaps they feel underpaid or overworked or believe the company owes them. They might tell themselves they're just borrowing the money or that everyone else does it. This rationalization allows them to commit the act while still maintaining a positive self-image. Understanding this internal dialogue is vital because it highlights that prevention isn't just about controls, but also about fostering a strong ethical culture that challenges such justifications. When we look at the broader employee population, research suggests that individuals typically fall into one of three ethical categories, often referred to as the 20-60-20 rule. On one end, 20% of employees are always dishonest. They're predisposed to commit fraud when an opportunity arises. On the other end, 20% of employees are always honest. They're guided by strong internal ethics, and they're unlikely to engage in fraud regardless of the circumstances. The crucial group for HR and organizational strategy is the middle 60%. These are the situationally honest employees whose behavior is highly influenced by the workplace environment or the tone set by leadership, the prevailing culture, and the perceived likelihood of detection and consequences. Given this ethical distribution, it becomes clear where HR's most impactful efforts should be focused. While you must have controls for the always dishonest and appreciate the always honest, your primary strategic focus should be on the middle 60%. This group is highly susceptible to the influence of your corporate culture and their perception of risk. By establishing clear ethical guidelines, providing regular training, ensuring strong internal controls, and demonstrating consistent enforcement, you can significantly reduce the likelihood of these individuals engaging in fraudulent behavior. It's about creating an environment where the perceived risk of getting caught outweighs any potential gain, and where ethical conduct is the norm. Beyond individual motivations, we must also consider the environmental factors that enable fraud. Dishonest behavior doesn't just appear. It thrives in environments where weaknesses and vulnerabilities exist. Think of it as a fertile ground for misconduct. These weak environments often result from a lack of robust internal controls, insufficient oversight, or a culture that inadvertently tolerates or overlooks questionable practices. HR plays a vital role in identifying and addressing these systemic weaknesses. Let's break down some specific working conditions that create opportunities for fraud. A lack of managerial oversight means employees might feel their actions won't be scrutinized. Inadequate internal controls, such as insufficient segregation of duties or lax approval processes, provide direct pathways for illicit activities. If policies and procedures are poorly communicated or simply not followed, employees may not understand the boundaries or consequences. A weak ethical infrastructure, where integrity isn't consistently championed, sends the wrong message. Critically, a failure to monitor employee conduct and, perhaps most dangerously, ignoring obvious red flags or behavioral changes effectively gives fraudsters a green light. HR, often involved in policy development and employee relations, is crucial in identifying and advocating for the remediation of these conditions. Let's look at some specific warning signs. First, lifestyle mismatch. If an employee's spending habits or possessions suddenly seem to exceed their known income, it's a potential red flag. This isn't about judging personal finances, but observing significant unexplained discrepancies. Second, unusual work hours. Consistently working late nights or weekends without a clear, justifiable reason might indicate an attempt to conceal activities or manipulate systems when fewer people are around. Third, financial distress. Direct or indirect mentions of money troubles, excessive borrowing from colleagues, or unusual requests for advances can signal underlying pressure. Again, these are not definitive proofs, but rather signals that warrant further careful observation. Continuing with more red flags. Absence avoidance is a classic one. An employee who consistently avoids taking vacation or sick leave might be afraid that their fraudulent activities will be discovered in their absence. Emotional volatility. Sudden hostility, defensiveness, or expressions of revenge or resentment towards the company or colleagues can sometimes be a manifestation of internal conflict or fear of exposure. Pressure from above. If leaders are creating an environment of unjustified urgency or secrecy around financial matters, it can create a breeding ground for misconduct. Finally, health or addiction issues. Emerging dependencies or significant behavioral changes related to substance abuse or gambling, for example, can indicate financial desperation driving fraudulent acts. HR professionals are often well placed to observe these behavioral shifts and initiate appropriate, supportive, yet vigilant responses. It's crucial to understand that the impact of employee fraud extends far beyond direct financial losses. While the monetary cost can be substantial, the damage to an organization's intangible assets, its trust, culture, and reputation, can be even more devastating and long-lasting. These consequences can undermine the very fabric of your company and jeopardize its long-term success. As HR, you'll be on the front lines of managing these broader impacts. Here are some far-reaching consequences. Internally, employee morale plummets as trust is shattered, leading to a toxic work environment. Externally, there's a significant loss of stakeholder trust from investors to customers and even partners. This often translates into severe reputational damage, which can be incredibly difficult to repair. Fraud can also trigger regulatory scrutiny, potentially resulting in hefty fines and legal battles. Operationally, it means increased costs for investigations, legal fees, and implementing new controls, along with significant disruption. Ultimately, it can lead to contract losses and customer attrition, directly impacting the bottom line and future growth. HR is often tasked with rebuilding morale and trust after such events, making prevention paramount. For public companies, these things can lead to a decline in stock value. So what's the solution? To effectively prevent and respond to fraud, HR must not act in isolation. This requires a collaborative, multidisciplinary approach. The most effective strategy involves partnering closely with your compliance, finance, and legal teams to implement a robust three-part fraud risk management plan, focusing on prevention, discovery, and remediation. This integrated approach ensures that all angles are covered, from proactive measures to effective response and recovery. Let's dive into the first critical component, which is prevention. This is where HR can be most proactive. It starts with regular fraud risk assessments to pinpoint vulnerabilities in your policies or processes. Implementing and consistently upholding a clear code of ethics tailored to your company's unique values sets the tone. Robust vetting of employees and third parties, including thorough background checks, due diligence, and even modern credibility assessments, is a non-negotiable step. Regular engaging training and communication on ethical conduct and fraud awareness are essential to keep integrity top of mind. Finally, designing processes with built-in anti-fraud controls, leveraging technology where possible for automated checks and credibility assessments, significantly reduces opportunities for misconduct. Even with strong prevention, fraud can occur. That's where robust discovery mechanisms come into play. Establishing anonymous hotlines and other safe reporting mechanisms is crucial for encouraging employees to come forward without fear of retaliation. Frequent and random audits, not just scheduled ones, are highly effective at uncovering discrepancies. Modern HR and finance teams can leverage behavioral and process monitoring, often enhanced by AI tools and analytics, to spot unusual patterns. This can include ongoing credibility assessments. Finally, proactive forensic data analysis can identify anomalies or suspicious trends that might indicate fraudulent activity before it escalates. These tools help you move from reactive to proactive detection. The final piece of the plan is remediation, which is how you respond once fraud is detected. This phase requires strict adherence to internal investigation protocols, always guided by HR and legal standards to ensure fairness and compliance. Disciplinary actions must be applied consistently based on documented policies. That is to maintain credibility and to deter future misconduct. Understand and fulfill all disclosure requirements to regulators or relevant stakeholders. Crucially, remediation isn't just about punishing the perpetrator. It's about addressing the systemic weaknesses that allowed the fraud to occur. You must remediate process failures to prevent reoccurrence, ensuring that the organization learns from the past incidents and strengthens its defenses. As indicated by the red text here on the slide, to assist organizations in employee and third-party vetting, anti-fraud controls, behavior monitoring, and internal investigations, Converus offers AI-enabled credibility assessment tools such as VerifEye and EyeDetect. VerifEye brings scientifically validated technology to smartphones. Powered by AI, it's the first mobile app for truth verification, which is highly accurate, non-invasive, and easy to use. Similar to EyeDetect, VerifEye measures and analyzes subtle change in pupil dilation and other involuntary eye reactions to achieve accuracy as high as 89%. The highest levels of accuracy are achieved only when the examinee is tested under optimal conditions, which will be described in this presentation. If conditions are not optimal, accuracy can be reduced. Getting started with VerifEye is straightforward. A test link is generated from the Converus dashboard specifying the key data, examinee test, subaccount, language, and server. That link is sent to the test taker via a text message, an email, or a QR code. If the person does not have the app installed, clicking the link from a cell phone will redirect to the App Store to install. Once installed, the test starts. The test taker listens to questions and answers true or false by looking at the back camera for about 10 minutes. Then, the system analyzes the data and generates a report with a credibility score, and that is available in the control panel. Let me tell you a personal example. A few months ago, we wanted to hire a person in another country. We placed an ad on a job search website. In a few days, there were more than 450 people interested. I reduced down to 50 and sent those people a questionnaire. From the responses I received, I lowered the number of applicants from 50 down to 10. With the 10 finalists, we conducted a virtual team meeting via Teams. In the end, we reduced the group to 2 finalists. To both of them, I sent a link to a VerifEye test. The test involved various behaviors, such as stealing from a previous employer and drug use. The results indicated that one of the two finalists failed the drug topic. In a subsequent conversation, he told me that he uses marijuana every week. I hired the other person. Many times companies make decisions based on interviews. If we had not evaluated these two finalists, we would not have known that one of the candidates is a frequent drug user. Trooper, headquartered in Mexico, is recognized as the leading exporter, importer, and manufacturer of hardware products throughout Latin America. Its presence extends to more than 70 countries, reflecting its leadership and global reach. However, like many companies in the manufacturing sector, it faced a serious problem: theft and fraud within its manufacturing operations. To address the situation, Trooper implemented EyeDetect. It began running 7,000 truth-checking tests a year, using EyeDetect to assess the honesty and behavior of both job seekers and current employees. The results were overwhelming. In 2024, 36% of applicants failed the test and were discarded from the hiring process. As a direct consequence, the company achieved a 24% reduction in employee theft incidents. In addition, the hiring process became more efficient and reliable. This proactive approach not only strengthened internal security, but also raised the standards of integrity within the organization. In terms of administering VerifEye tests, this slide shows photos of 3 people self-administering a test in the comfort or privacy of their own home or office. It's best to rest your elbows on a stationary object, such as a desk, to avoid fatigue. I'll talk about the conditions of the room momentarily. For optimal results, we recommend supervised testing. In this case, room conditions such as lighting and background noise and the participation of test takers can be monitored. When this is done, accuracy improves. A test report is created after the test, and it indicates the overall result with a data quality score in the upper right corner. It includes the examinee's name, email, ID, phone number if applicable, and 4 random photos taken of the examinee's face. These photos were taken at random during the test and allow you to determine if the person who started the test is the same person who finished the test. Additionally, the report displays information such as the test name, the date, the test ID, the test key, etc., which all serve as unique identifiers for this test. The test report shows a credibility score for each relevant topic. There's a summary of examinee answers which indicate whether the person answered questions as expected, failed to answer questions, or answered in such a way that their verbal responses were unrecognizable. The following section shows a summary of data, which is an indicator of the quality of data, which is related to camera resolution. Below that is a section indicating what the outcome means, such as what a credible or a truthful outcome suggests. This is an example of a process that can be used if automation is created using the VerifEye software developer kit. For example, in Step 1, the applicant visits the employer's website. Step 2, they find and complete a job application. The employer's system determines if the person meets the minimum requirements and, if so, creates and sends a VerifEye test link to the applicant in Step 3. In Step 4, the applicant clicks on the test link and is prompted to download the VerifEye app. Step 5, the person takes the test. Step 6, the test data and eye images are processed and uploaded to a scoring server. The test is scored in Step 7. A report is generated and posted in the employer's dashboard in Step 8. In Step 9, the company can make decisions and take action. To summarize our discussion today, remember these key takeaways. First, your role in HR is absolutely vital in shaping an ethical culture and actively combating employee fraud. Second, understanding the motivations behind fraud, the pressures, the opportunities, and rationalizations is fundamental to prevention. Third, be vigilant for both behavioral red flags in individuals and environmental red flags in your working conditions. And finally, the most effective approach is to implement a comprehensive 3-part fraud risk management plan focused on prevention, discovery, and remediation. And you do that in collaboration with your finance, compliance, and legal counterparts. I encourage you to review your current practices and identify areas in which you can strengthen things. Thank you for your time and attention. If you'd like a copy of these slides, send an email to me at rwarner@converus.com. If you'd like to download the guide on which this presentation is based, simply go to converus.com/hr and you can download it there. Thanks again.